Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining in with us on tonight. Just lost Jamal, but he'll be back. Thanks for joining in with us on tonight for Let's Be Clear, Let's Be Honest. This is the men's edition where we are talking about things, all men, and we are dealing with things that are taboo, things that normally people don't expect men to talk about. I had some of you guys to send some information in and some questions that you guys have sent in, and we want to answer those questions on tonight. I want to introduce you to my panelists on tonight. So first, we have Dr. Jason Plunkett. He is from California. And so just go ahead and introduce yourself to the team and to the crowd and just let everybody know where you're from, what you do.
Okay. My pleasure. Thank you for being here. It's an honor. So I really appreciate the fact that you trust me on here. I'm from California by way of Belize. So I'm representing Belize, Central America. I was actually the first American born in my entire generation. And so, what else? I am a psychologist by trade. I am married to the finest woman on earth. I have 4 kids. I combat human trafficking for an amazing organization called Zoe International. We combat human trafficking in 4 different nations, and I'm one of the United States directors. And I have my own consultancy called True Solutions. And what I do is leadership development, and I just executive coach as well. So thank you so much for having me.
That's what's up, man. Thanks so much for being here. And next, we have one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Jamaica and Africa, uh, Dr. Leanza Stockley, the love guru himself. Go
You
ahead and
you
introduce yourself, man.
you forgot New Zealand. You forgot New Zealand too,
Oh,
because
yeah, and New Zealand,
in
and New Zealand.
and New Zealand. That's my favorite space. Or whatever. I'm just Leanzar. I'm a relationality specialist, relationship specialist, whatever you want to call it. Also a grief recovery specialist, um, and just a regular dude, ordained minister, all that stuff. And what else you want to know? I got kids. Yeah, I got. They love me. I got a partner.
Tell
Just in
the people
case
about
people want to know.
underneath.
Oh, and I have an underwear line called Underneath Bazaar. Listen, if you need draws to get giblets right, Underneath Bazaar. That's where you need to go. We don't need
Listen,
that other one, the,
they're
the
very
F and the L.
comfortable.
We just, they are comfortable. I don't listen. I don't sell anything that I would not wear if I wore those styles. Does that make sense? Okay.
It makes perfectly good sense. And last but not least, we have Elder Jamal Moore, Doctor, one of my great friends, also my business partner. He is a financial solutionist to everybody. If you want to get your money right, see this man right here. Actually, Dr. Jason too. Like we all are business partners. So if you want to get your money right, this the man to see. Jamal, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
My name is Jamal Moore, and I'm by way of Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm here to pour as much knowledge and information into the community as I can. Thank you first and foremost as well for having me on tonight with these fine gentlemen to be able to come and share and talk and just have some real men talk and let's just be honest, be real, and be open. And so I work in child welfare as well. Have worked in child welfare now for a bazillion years, helping children be reunified with their families, etc. And so, yeah, we're here to talk about money, finances. I'm gonna be sharing information about that tonight too. That's what I do, financial guru. So yeah, let's talk about it. And once again, thank you for allowing me to be here.
No problem. So, as you guys know, I am Pastor P. I am your life coach slash your pastor slash your friend, your uncle, your cousin. And this is how we do our Bible classes here at Freedom Factory. I pastor one of the greatest churches in the whole wide world: Jamaica, Africa, New Zealand, and Switzerland. Freedom Factory Worship Center. Some of them are even on now. But tonight, I just wanted to have a conversation. We're in this series. We just finished Help God, I Got Struggles. Help God, It's Hard for Me to
Mm,
Forgive. And so tonight,
good.
I wanted to just deal with taboo, things that people don't expect men to talk about, things that we were told as men not to talk about, or those things are taboo. And so I asked a panel, well, not a panel, but I asked a group of women some questions, just send some questions in that you will want to talk about or you will want to know from men. And one of the questions that me and my sister Shakole were just talking about, she was saying how back in my grandmother's time, you would see men stick around more as it relates to the family structure. You would see men be there for their families. You'll see men supporting their families, being the priest, the protector, the provider. And she said, we don't see that nowadays as much. One of my responses to her was because sometimes we honestly, as men, don't have the security to know that things are going to be taken care of. For instance, the example that I gave her was I saw my great grandfather come home from working a construction job, and he would take his check and just put his check on the table, and my grandmother would go cash it. She would make sure the light bill was paid, the gas bill was paid, the mortgage was paid, food was in the refrigerator, and he didn't have to do anything but go out and work, because the house was taken care of. And I was telling her that I can remember being married and I would send money home for things to be taken care of, and my ex-wife would go buy new shoes. And so the trust level as it related to the things of the house being taken care of, the dynamics of what was instilled in women then versus things that are instilled in women and men now are totally different. What do you guys think?
Wow. Well, that's a great question.
And, and if
Are we talking about men in general? Or are we talking about black men? What's our focus?
We could talk about men in general. We can make it to men of color. It's up to you guys.
Okay.
Let's talk.
Yeah. If there's any other panelists that want to start, feel free. But
You talking? You might as
yeah,
well. You might as well
yeah,
start.
go right in, jump on in, Dr. Joy.
so, I mean, I like to take things from the demographics, right? I like to look into the demographics of people and why. So I'll come from the men of color, and I think men of color haven't had the examples that we deserve, and because sometimes we haven't had the mass amount of examples, uh, therefore we didn't really know how to portray exactly what we're supposed to be. Uh, I personally, I'm not gonna like hang my hat on this all the time, but when we go back down just to the concept of slavery and demasculating men and taking men away from the home, from that perspective, I mean that was a culture that we were given, right? And while other cultures were given various other ways in how to look at something like that, and I think as time just went by, it kind of just evolved to the place where, I mean, I could let me just ask all the panelists how many of us grew up with the dad? So how many of us grew up with the dad and they watched their dad marry their mom and take care of the family? Raise your hand. And that's zero, right? So I mean, so if we had 10 people here right now, I could only imagine it was about 8 out of 10, at least for my own friends and family, right? So therefore, we had to be that example. And it's hard to be that example when you didn't have that example. So now you're a trailblazer. Now you're a vanguard. Now you're doing something that you've not even seen before. I'm an amazing dad. I'm actually one of the dopest dads I know, but that's only because I was such a broken kid, and I'm only a dope dad because I'm everything my dad wasn't for me. So I did the opposite of having an example. But how many people are leaders in that capacity to say, I'm about to be dope because I didn't have it? Sometimes we go
Hmm.
with the same concept of what was
Hmm.
given to us, but that's my
Yeah.
perspective.
Wow.
I mean, think about when the song was written, Papa was a Rolling Stone. It wasn't written in our era. So we
Mm,
want to talk about those days of what that looked like back in that day. I think that we still have loyal women back in that day. We have loyal women in this day. It's all about how you were raised and how you were taught to handle and carry yourself as a woman. I look at my sister now, who was raised by my mom, phenomenal woman, and my sister is dope. She's a dope mother. Her husband is a great provider. My sister is also a great provider, but they have a relationship that works for them. I look at other relationships around me that are young or vibrant in my age now as well, and I see some wonderful relationships. I see some crappy relationships. I think it's all about what you want to put into it and how you were raised. And like Dr. Jason said earlier, he was a trailblazer. He wanted to change the trajectory of how he parented. And I label myself the exact same way. You know, um, I'm a dope dad myself. I think there's I'm telling you right now, I'm in that 1% of dope dads. Simply because
right.
I even someone asked me, "You're an amazing father," and you didn't have that, structure growing up, and you didn't have that example growing up. I just do everything my dad didn't do. I never missed a track meet. I never missed a piano recital. I never missed a Girl Scout event. I never missed. I never missed anything from skateboards to all those different things. Swim practice, the swim meets. I was there for everything. Why? Because I know what it feels like not having anyone to cheer you on, at least a little on your father there to cheer you on, while
Yeah.
you are out there doing all the amazing things that you're doing. So I know what that feels like, and I never wanted my children to feel that either. So I changed it. I didn't want to carry on that same mentality that was passed on to me. My father didn't have his father. You know, my parents divorced when I was young, so they tried, but I just think that they didn't have the wherewithal to be able to seek out resources and things like that to help them stay together. But my father, he didn't have his father growing up. So it was like a pattern that was happening, and I chose not to continue that pattern. So hope I was able to answer that question.
Hmm.
Lee, you got
Hmm.
anything?
I mean, I'm probably. I mean, I'm liking this term "dope dad."
Hashtag, hashtag. We're gonna start a
I
whole
know
clothing line. Dope dad.
I start. Yeah,
Exactly.
how it happened. I start hanging on words and stuff like that. And I guess I would be probably in that boat. I guess I always when people talk about the whole
No,
parenting
there's
issue
no
and this is it.
guessing. There's no guessing. You are in that equation. So
I get
put
I find
yourself
out
there.
when
Lee's a dope.
you find out when Father's Day come and birthdays come, and then your kids make a post. Because and then you be like, oh, they do like me. No.
Yeah.
I probably have some amazing kids. I do think because part of the question was about how women are. Give me that. The gist of that question again.
How which part? How the women were bred differently back then versus to
Then the
now.
versus the ones now, and see, and to me, it, and I've been sort of hands off in this in a way, or I don't want to say hands off, but kind of modeling some of the same thing to my kids. I think women now are more so trained, and I'm using the word trained slightly. There's more of this independence than what was back then. The whole idea of a man taking care of you was something seemed to me to be this thing that is almost becoming antiquated. Although out of their mouth they'll still say, or out of their actions they'll still say they want a man that's going to pay the bills and to do this, that, and the other, and whatever. But it seems like we're in a different type of generation of
Hmm.
people. My
Yeah.
having raised my girls, I've probably raised them, and not to say intentionally, but I've probably raised them a little bit more independent than to have to depend on a guy or depend on a husband, or because I believe that at some point women were cultured or raised to what made them successful was to be able to get a man and to be able to keep a man,
Yeah.
right? So even some of them back in the day held on to some men that wasn't good to them,
True.
right? So they stayed together, but they weren't really together.
Yeah. True.
And I think women now are more so kind of like, listen, I don't need this man. Now, again, that's what's said, that's what's stated, but the way it all ends up working out, I still think that uh, it's just a different generation of people. I don't think people stay together today.
Hmm.
It, that's a
No,
whole that may be going into a whole nother part of the
No,
conversation,
that's
but
pretty
no,
we
accurate.
no.
don't.
That's good. I was laughing because Shakola chimed in and she said trained. Oh, so women are dogs now, and I was like,
No, but I'm glad she said that because honestly, that's what it is though. This stuff is trained. These things are trained in us. Men are trained, women are trained, or you can use the word if that word sounds a little too aggressive, programmed. It's the same thing, and it goes all the way back to and I may go here and may get shot for it, but it goes all the way back to the whole Garden of Eden type talk. We thought, well, I ain't gonna go into that.
no, go. Let's go. Let's go. Listen,
Good.
let's be real. Let's be clear.
It
Let's be
goes back
honest.
to the idea that women have been set up to be somebody's husband. That's what has been when you look at movies from the little princess that's being found to being the whatever, we thought suitable helper meant wife, and it don't. but they've been cultured that way since the beginning. Women were property at one point. So it was like getting a woman, marrying a woman, and having a, it was all about ownership, in a sense. So then most people train their girls to grow up and be good for some man versus just grow up and be a great woman or whatever. And I think some of that is shifting. Some of that is shifting now. But it's like, but that's the culture. That's what the culture has, or at least that's in my experience of seeing the culture, having talked to people, even regarding relationships and stuff like that. That's the underlying thought, is that the measure of a woman is whether she finds a good man and he's able to provide for her.
Yeah, I was raised by my mom. I was in the house with my mom, but I primarily stayed with my great grandmother from the time I was 17 until I was about 30 years old. One of the traditions in our family, Leandra knows Anne very well. One of the traditions in our family is that when you turn 16 years old, my granny woke us up. We cleaned up the house. We washed dishes. We washed clothes. Then she taught me to cut up a chicken. And then she taught me to fry the chicken. And her reasoning behind that is because a woman doesn't want a man that can't cook, clean, or wash his own clothes. And if she
Mm,
decides to leave you, you need to learn how to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes me to the movie The Color Purple. So when
mm,
Whoopi Goldberg decided to leave Mister, he
mm,
didn't know how to do anything because it was already done for him. It was always done for him. And I think that that's a culture too that some of the men nowadays are raised in, to where everything is done for you, so you don't want to do it yourself.
mm,
And so it's like, because I believe that like I've seen my auntie, my cousins were 28, 25, 23, and she's still going in their room, straightening up their bed, washing their clothes, cooking their dinner, and I'm like, y'all grown. And so let's speak to. Wait, go ahead, Lee. What were you about to say?
well, you may be going there, but I was going to say, but is that coming from what roles that we were told? This is a woman's role. This is a man's role. So then
That's
some of that stuff
exactly where I
just,
was going.
it just lingers and passes down generation to generation to generation, because we have these roles. Being a man is a role. Being a woman is a role. So then we have that where it's like, where you the women take care of the men in that way. In that way, the men just go out and make the money.
Yeah, I can see that, but I also see it as the single mom who's wanting just to love on her son so much because his dad's not
Because
there.
dad is not there.
So she's being a mom and a dad, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
have concerns about that in of itself. That's a whole other conversation. But
That's actually
she's
where I was going next.
she's taking the role of both, and when she's taking the role of both, she's trying to take care of her kids so much so because there's already a loss there. There's already a loss not
Mm-hmm.
having a dad, and lots of us never thought that was a loss. I mean, we knew it was, but it's almost like, yeah, but I got my mom, but I got my grandma, I got my. But when you think about attachment and you think about losing the second person that's supposed to mean the most to you, your mom and your dad, now you don't have one of them who you
One of
resemble
them.
to,
Mm-hmm.
who's supposed to be your hero, who's supposed to be your role model, who you're supposed to look up to, and now you don't have that. Now, moms, I think back in the day, or even now, sometimes will then compromise in regards to, well, I'm gonna love my son so much so he doesn't feel like he has that loss. And I think there's a lot of moms who raise baby
That's a
boys, and they raise baby boys, not men, to
that's
then
a good
think that
point.
everyone needs to take care of them. I was raised in a different culture, much like what you were saying, Pierre. Whereas my mom was like, "No, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do that. And I'm gonna love on you, but you're still gonna learn this and you're still gonna learn that." And that's the reason now where I could actually wash the dishes and show my son how to wash the dishes. Right? Lots of us didn't have that.
Good point.
So, what would you say to the and I'm going back to what you were saying, Dr. Plunkett. What would you say to the statement, or what are your views on the statement that a single mom would make when she says, "I'm the mama and the daddy"?
Yeah, this is but you putting us in a really precarious situation right now. You put me in a real bad situation, right? So me personally, all right. So for one, let me just make this statement in regards to I honor a single mom. There ain't no harder job on
Listen,
earth.
they're the
And
best thing in the world.
I know because my mom was the best mama in the world, and she had me at 18 as an immigrant mother fleeing from Belize to raise a son to become a doctor, and that's what she did, right? So I know how hard that job is, but she's not my dad. and she was never my dad. And I think we need to make that really clear at times in regards to, as much as you can love us, you cannot teach me how to pee. You cannot teach me. There's a lot of things that you just cannot do. You cannot teach me various concept of my when I was going through puberty or anything like that. That you could do the best you can, and my mom was amazing at it, but she just could not be that specific role model from a male perspective for me. So I must say I don't agree with that. I don't think single moms are moms and dads. I think they're just bomb, amazing, amazing moms. But you're not the mom and the dad, even though you're taking on that role, and it's sad that men have got women to that point of having to even do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
When do you hear single fathers saying, "I'm his mother and his father"?
Yeah.
Never, or hardly ever. I ain't never said it.
Neither have I, because I'm not a
And
mother, and I can
yeah,
never be a mother. You
Yeah.
know,
I wouldn't want to
can
be
never.
mother.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they're built different. They like Fords. They're built tough.
Sitting like forwards.
They're built tough.
And
Yeah.
for me, I think to
Because
me
it's
it's more of
certain things.
a compliment to just acknowledge how of an amazing mom you are. You don't have to take on the concept of I'm the mom and the dad, because you're not the dad. You're just such an amazing mom that you're doing as many roles as you know how, and like you're just an amazing example of just what resilience look like. But at the end of the day, you're the mom.
yeah.
Hmm.
I look at my mother, who raised 5 children
Mm,
and 4 boys and 1 girl.
wow.
You know, as a single mom, and as amazing as my mother is, she was never our father. And
Mhm.
Hmm.
she made that very known to us. She never sugarcoated anything when it came down to about being a father to us. She always said, "I'm your mother." You know, I remember one time, I think I was probably very in my young 20s, and I called her on Father's Day, and I told her, you know, how amazing she was, even though she's my mom. I want to honor her even on Father's Day. And she paused and she said, "No, no, no. This day is not for me. For you to take
Hmm.
this day and try to
Hmm.
celebrate me." She said, "This is not the day." She said, "You can celebrate me 364 other days, but this is not the day." You know, I've never heard anyone, another mother, say that in a way to where, you know, she understands her job as a mother and what she's done to raise us. You know, 4 sons, and she's done a wonderful job. She's done a wonderful job on raising us, 4 sons and a daughter. You know, and hats off to her, because like y'all said, being a single parent, period, is an extremely difficult job.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
shout out to all the mothers. Like you guys are great. Single moms, you're doing a great job. If nobody has told you, you are doing a great job.
amen to that.
Which brings me to my next segue into the conversation. Um, as it relates to men, I think this is probably a question that Lee or Dr. Plunkett especially can answer. As it relates to men showing emotion, some of us have been taught, or some men were taught growing up, don't show emotion, be a man. Um, Men don't cry. Um, Suck it up. Um, don't trust women with your money. Don't eat a woman's spaghetti. Um, just the different things that we're
You
that
got a
we're
lot of them.
told. Let's talk about some of those myths that about being a man
You
that we
mean let's
can
talk about
dismantle now.
all of those myths, not some of those myths, all of those myths.
Okay, let's talk about all of those myths.
Because
Let's
I know some
dismantle
women with
all
good
of those
spaghetti.
myths because yeah. Let's
Right, exactly.
go.
Uh, I guess I'll start with the concept of don't show emotions, right? So that's such a false narrative in of itself, because it's okay to get pissed off and break something, but it's not okay to cry. But the concept of emotions is to emote feelings, right? So you first have to think it, then you feel it, and when you feel it, you emote it. So then you're showing emotions. but we're totally okay with men being strong and breaking something or aggressive or something like that when they're still emoting feelings. And oftentimes when they're emoting feelings through anger, we celebrate it and we don't like it. Oh, you're too aggressive, or it's toxic masculinity, or it's, and we're going back and forth. But the very truth is, we're always emoting emotions, right?
Yeah.
So now it goes back to now the concept of crying and what does crying actually even mean. And when you come from a psychological perspective, the release of chemicals when you cry is amazing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, I think we're in a new era. I do think we're in a new era where people are a little bit more open to the concept of sharing emotions, speaking about your feelings, processing feelings. Um, but I must say, when I was growing up, that's exactly what it was. It was like, boy, shut up. Don't be crying. You better toughen up, right? So the concept of toughen up means not crying or showing any weakness or anything like that. And I'm big on emotions. I'm big on feelings. I'm big on there is no bad feelings. I only know what sad is because I know what joy really is. It's the absence of my joy, right? So I'm really big on teaching my sons and my daughters, but specifically my sons, of being okay with and feeling all their feelings.
Mm-hmm. And that's
But
interesting. That's interesting that you said that about sadness and joy, because I actually consider sadness impossible without understanding joy. So it's like it's how I know when something is off. And we just had a conversation recently with some people, and I was talking about even the aspect of sadness, though, that is still a healthy emotion. Most people think that is negative, and it's like it's not. It's like, well, so what do you do when the cat go run out in the street and get hit by a car? Are you supposed to laugh?
yeah,
So it's like it's a sign that, again, like our emotions is just showing something is going on and it needs to be expressed. And I think that we're in an era now, or have passed, come when I, like you said, I think some is opening up now, but our heart doesn't get to speak. Soon as someone expresses some type of emotion that's other than being happy, other than being anything, any of the, I would say, any of the comfortable emotions, right? And then for men, women are, a comfortable emotion would be anger. That's what they're comfortable getting from men. But anytime you express anything outside of that, then quickly somebody intellectualizes it. So then the heart never really expresses what it needs to express. And that's not
yeah,
just something they say, oh, women are more emotional than men. No, it's a lie. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Men are extremely emotional. Now, I do believe some of it is generally suppressed or
yeah,
pushed back,
absolutely,
and they have to
yeah,
have it in private, or you know
absolutely.
what I mean? Because you're less than a man if you show certain types of emotions or
Or
whatever.
you
But
express it through some type of aggression, but it's still
or
emotional.
aggressive. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's almost as if it's the only thing that's acceptable from men. Even though, again, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of people are saying differently. But our society, we say a lot of stuff that we do not give support to in terms of how we actually live and relate to one another.
that's so true.
Mm.
I think a lot of our, even our moms would go back and look at. They have made comments in regards to, I want you to express yourself more. But yet, when we fell and we cried, boy, boy, shut up and stop crying. What you crying for right now, right?
Yep.
And that concept, I think, is opening up a little bit more now in regards to being open and hearing and mindful and self-aware and all that. But you're absolutely right.
We got a ways to go. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can remember even growing up, and even whenever there was something that bothered me, or or that triggered me, and I began to cry about it. It was stop being a sissy, stop being a punk, and you're not no punk. Wipe your tears. Men don't cry. And for me, it was like, okay, well, cool. If men don't cry, then what do I do when I'm having these emotions?
yeah,
And so that triggered a whole anger spurt, because if I can't do anything about it and show emotion by crying, now I want to punch something, which
hmm,
then
Mm-hmm.
fed
Mm-hmm.
into what was going on in my house at the time,
yeah,
because I was seeing, and it was so crazy because I was seeing my mother's boyfriend at the time, who was a pastor, beat my mom. So
Mm.
when I got called into ministry, I didn't want to be a pastor because I thought that that was one of the things that was going to happen, was that I was going to start fighting and beating people. And
yeah,
so it's
Some of them
like,
do.
you get what I'm saying? And so then, but the thing is, it became that mental concept of shh,
Yeah.
don't tell that,
Yeah.
because this is normal behavior. It's normal for a man to it's normal for a man to hit a woman. We talk about domestic violence as it relates to women all the time, but it's some men that's being beat. You get what I'm saying? And so it's like, okay, cool. So does that mean that I'm less of a man because I don't talk about it? How do I deal with that?
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It just goes back to the narrative. I mean, we learn to suppress. We often our perceptions create our reality, right? So our perception creates our reality, and we obtain our perceptions from the time we were children. But oftentimes we were told to suppress our feeling or our emotion in the moment. But now, as teenagers and adults, when we're then showing aggression, then people actually want us to be softened up and not suppress it, but show it and express it. But yet we didn't know how to do it. But from the time we were children, we were told to be quiet, be quiet. And much like you said, I don't feel like I was even ever given an avenue of what else to do. It was more so just stop it. So the emotions are
Mm-hmm.
coming, and let's just say it's coming through tears. No, just stop it. Not another gateway of go journal, go talk about it, go process it with
Mm-hmm.
someone, or go something like that. So all I had was rage inside, and I knew how to do that. I saw it all around me. So every hood dude around me would just sock someone out. So that's what I did. I'll sock you out. And from that point on, that's how I showed my emotions. And I was really good at showing my emotions by socking people out. And I had to reprogram my entire mind of like, what am I doing, right? So it's going back to the narrative.
Marnisha Thomas said, "Men are taught to suck it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
gonna be all right." And in
Yeah.
reality, I'm like, no, I'm not all right.
yeah,
Um, let's touch on another myth. Another myth, which is one that personally irritates me, um, is when you have a man that has been sexually violated,
mm,
that automatically makes him gay or makes him
mm,
going to be a molester. Like one of the
mm,
stupidest things I've heard was, "Oh, because he was molested, he gonna molest somebody else."
yeah,
That's so stupid. Or it makes you less of a man because you've had that experience. Let's talk about that, and let's talk about, if you can, Dr. Plunkett, as well, um, how men get pulled into sex trafficking as
yeah,
well,
absolutely,
because we automatically equate sex trafficking and prostitution and stripping to women, but we never deal with the men that are in this same path.
yeah,
So let's deal with that myth.
okay. Uh, then I'll go when it comes to the molestation of boys becoming them molesting themselves too. Goes back to the dumb comment that most people make that say hurt people. And I'm not sure if anyone else on this panel has ever quoted that, but it's the dumbest statement I've ever heard, coming
I've
from a
quoted that part. That is the
coming
dumbest thing I've.
coming from a psychological perspective, right? Because the truth is, hurt people do not hurt people. Hurt people who stay broken and don't get healed and want to act out through from a place of powerlessness hurt
Hurt
people,
people. Hurt people.
right? But
Mm-hmm.
a hurt person doesn't hurt someone, because if that's the case, then everyone that was a part of domestic violence would be a part of domestic violence again. We'll keep that same cycle. Everyone that molests will then molest. That's not true. The very truth is about 50% of the United States right now have been molested in some capacity. 50%, they said. When I first started my work about like 15 years ago, was about 25%. That was about 50%. So then you would think
Wow.
that all those people would become molesters, and absolutely not. That's not true, because some people process
Mm-hmm.
through that hurt, and they were able to regain their power through a healing process, through spirituality, through finding a higher power, or to process that in some way. So that's absolutely not accurate. But yeah, it's a huge myth, and especially I think within the Black culture. I think we talk about it often in regards to, oh, okay, well, watch out for him now, because instead of actually supporting him and walking him through that process and allowing him to process his hurt, his feelings, his past, his feeling of powerlessness, his feelings in regards to how it relates to the same sex compared to how it relates to the opposite sex in some capacities, and the fact that he was molested by a man compared to if he was molested by a woman, and actually processing that, but we just label it. I don't think we do a good job of processing it. But I'll have you guys continue, and then at the end of this, then I'll talk a little bit about human trafficking, how it relates to men.
Okay.
I ditto what
So for
Dr.
me, one
Jason
of the
said.
things.
Listen, I ditto what Dr. Jason said. I'm just being honest, and here to talk about that because, you know, like you said, if you don't deal with it, if you don't, we have to help walk our brothers through healing. We have to help them. We are each other's helper. We have to help them go through, that healing process. And so I think it's all of our responsibility when one of our brothers has been sexually violated. So it is our responsibility to help them heal, not just for themselves, but for their community, for them becoming adults, for them becoming adolescents, whatever it may be. We have to help them heal through that space.
through space. And I also think that it's a myth that because they were molested, that's what made them gay.
Yeah,
I agree.
It,
I
it
agree.
is it's a common story, but I
yeah,
don't necessarily think that that's the primary shaping of what that person's sexual orientation ended up being.
hmm
Yeah.
And that's hard to have, especially in church circles. But
yeah,
a hard
Listen,
conversation to have. But
yeah. Not true. That's so true.
but I think we prejudge it. I think we prejudge it, and when we prejudge it, that's where we mess up. I have a friend currently that is super feminine, is not gay, never been molested, um, and he was just raised around women. And so it goes back to that big argument that they were having on Facebook recently about whether or not you should buy a boy a cooking set because it's going to turn him gay. And
Yeah,
it's like, how can a kid turn gay from getting a cooking set?
yeah,
from learning how to cook
So
when a lot of top chefs are men
yeah,
and they're heteros, to
yeah,
our knowledge.
I think that we have put a stigma just on molestation, but we really don't deal with the issue. We don't
yeah,
deal with
Mm,
uh, maybe he wasn't molested. Maybe the reason that he's dating the same sex is because every woman that he's ever encountered has abused him.
mm, yeah,
Maybe it's because he was rejected and this is the only sense of inclusion that he feels. And so I think that all of those things play a part. Marnisha said rapes a boy, if a woman rape a boy, it's taken as he got some at an early age,
yeah.
like it's a good thing.
yep,
That's true.
yep,
It's celebrated. It's usually
The
celebrated.
yep,
double standard.
yep,
The double
Yeah.
standard.
yep.
Um,
I had a situation. I was molested by a male and a female, and I had someone say to me, "Well, was the female molestation?" It's like,
Mm,
how was it not at
yeah,
at at
yeah,
11 years old? But it's because that's viewed more as, oh yeah, you smash it, like,
yeah,
you're doing what you're supposed to be doing at 10,
yeah.
or so yeah, that's quite interesting.
No, and I think
I've
I
been in
think we're still
situations
working on
where
that.
I've been sexually harassed by a female at work and it was totally fine.
Mm,
Of course.
But the moment a statement is made, a statement is made, then it's like, no, no, you have to stop doing that. That's inappropriate. And it's the double standard. So as a man, it sort of makes you question what you can and can't do as a man.
Well, if I can share this, a few years back, the specific office that I was working in at that time, I was the only man there in that building, and there were 25 women,
mm,
and there was a female staff there that would make inappropriate comments um, to me, and I would just let it roll off my shoulder. I wouldn't even think twice about it, brush it off, and go do my thing. And then one day, there was one of my other coworkers came to me and she said, "Jamal, that makes me feel so uncomfortable when I hear her make comments to you." She said, "Because if the roles were reversed and if you were
Mm,
saying those things to her,"
wow.
she said, "I can guarantee you everybody in here would be filing some type of sexual harassment suit against you." for those comments. She said, "So I'm letting you know right now, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like it. And I'm going to file a sexual harassment, a lawsuit against her for what she's saying to you." She said, "Because I don't
Wow.
appreciate that." She said, "I believe in gender equality." She said, she went down the line about all these different things of equality. But she
Mhm.
was saying, what's happening to you right now, you're being victimized by her and what
Yeah.
she's saying, and it needs to be reported. It needs to stop. So you're right. It does. We are given different roles and things like that when it comes down to shining light on a situation. Because to me, yeah, I did know that it was inappropriate, and I know sometimes as guys, we can have some really dark humor, but you know, um, I would just let it roll off my shoulders. I didn't really care about it. I'm like, whatever. Laugh about it and keep going.
Yeah.
But it made someone else feel uncomfortable. So, and she spoke up. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of my sexual harassment came from church women.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
But it happens, and as Leandra knows, it happens because especially as preachers, like we get sexually harassed
Baby,
often,
baby. Yeah. But you be the one to
often.
blame for it if something go down.
But
Yes,
if you
baby.
say something, it's on you, and so it's like, no, I didn't say that. Or the musician. We talk about the musicians in church, oh, he just after all of the women. But what about the women that was leaving pennies at his door at his hotel,
Hmm.
And
or
it
doing
happens.
things to entice? And so it's the double standard of it. Mm. What are the classifications? I'm sorry. What are the qualifications of a good man that
Oh
I
wow.
should look for?
That's somebody asking that question? What are the
Yes.
qualifications of a good man
What
that
are
they should
what
look
are the
for?
qualifications of a good man that I should look for?
That's
Go
really
ahead, good
subjective.
men. Them
Jamal,
men
why you
right there.
laughing?
Them men right there.
Uh,
That
I
that's
think a
really
lot of times,
subjective.
I think a lot of times you want to ask a man that question. Ask yourself that question. And whatever
Mhm.
it is the answer that you're finding within yourself, that's what you should look for in a man. Have someone meet your equal. That's just me personally. If you want to find a man that has all these 10 characteristics about themselves, well, you better be having those same 10. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see this whole thing as, I mean, that's just me personally. And I don't care who you're dating or whatever it is, who, I don't care. If you're saying you want these things from this person, well, hell, you better be bringing the exact same thing too. That's just me. I don't believe in this. Well, I bring in, what do you bring into the table? Well, I got the table. No, we should be equal here. So if you're wanting to know what type of good things should you be looking for in a person or a spouse or a partner, the same things that you should be saying that you want for yourself,
Yeah.
or that you're able to, give to another person as well. So that's my take on it. That's just me personally. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a bit of a different perspective, but I like what you're saying because that's how I counsel folks in regards to make a list of who you
Me
are
too.
and the highest attributes in regards to what you bring to the table, and make sure that you could try and mirror that when finding someone. So
Mm-hmm.
I highlight what you're saying, but I would say for the person who answered that question, you safety is huge. So safety and trust is huge. So a person that is safe, a person that you can trust, a person that's very respectful, is a good foundational piece in regards to what that looks like. And specifically, if you're a woman of faith, specifically the Christian faith, someone who follows Christ, because then you can follow him and trust him, right, in regards to the direction that he's going into if he is a follower of Christ, not just identifying himself as a Christian, but a follower of Christ, right? But I think the foundational pieces is always going to go back to safety because everything else I think I mean, we could work on character, we could get a better job, we could go back to school and all the other stuff, but you need to make sure that that person's respectable, that they're trustworthy, and that they're safe.
I can attest to that. I think that in relationships, we look for the person that's financially stable. We look for the person that looks good. We look for the person that everybody wants, but we don't really look for the safety. Because I want to feel secure. I want to feel that I can put my life in your hands and be okay. And so I see both aspects of it. What say you, Lee?
I actually co-sign those, and I'm in the camp with both Jason and Jamal in that I don't counsel most of the couples that I'm counseling with. I don't counsel based on the man should have this, the woman should have that, or the couple should have this, because I don't just counsel heterosexual couples. So it's like I don't necessarily go from that. I go from just a character standpoint. And I've said a lot of times, are you a match to the thing you're saying you need? Because people have these lists, and then they don't even measure up to their own list,
Yeah.
Right.
but yet they're looking for it from
Yeah.
somebody else or whatever. And then you also have the group that has these lists, and they're married to the list instead of being married to the person that come into their life.
Yeah.
Married to love, I should say. They're married to that list. So I kind of agree. My biggest word when it comes to relationships and stuff like that is to look for a person that's willing. Because some people come into it. I 100% agree with safety, definitely. You know, and being able to have that security and stuff like that, and being able to mirror the same thing. But willingness to me is one of the biggest keys to any relationship that's going to exist. If a person is not, and not just willingness to be in the relationship, but willingness to be the space that a person can thrive with and that can thrive through or whatever. So if you run into somebody and they're extremely selfish and everything is all about them, that's definitely not going to be the space for you. It's called a
Yeah.
relationship,
Yeah.
which means that we both should be able to come into this space. When we bring our lives together, we should be able to thrive, right? But if that initial piece of being willing to do that, and then a yielding to one another, because I also don't teach the man is the head and the woman is not. I teach mutual submission. And from a Christian perspective, that's actually what the scripture says. It says, submit yourselves to one another. But for whatever reason, we have this idea that, and I get the terminology, I get the picture of what's trying to be stated, but there's this, I need a man that can lead, right? We all should be leaders in the relationship, technically. We all should be leaders of some sort in the relationship. We're coming into a space of oneness, right? But it's being taught separately. So then that's what we have is separation. We have more separation than we actually have togetherness. For some people, it works. Again, the whole traditional way that the man is the head, he calls all the shots. But for some folks, that's not, especially if, and I don't know if I can say this on this platform, but especially in same sex relationships, it's kind of like you dealing with two people of the same, whatever. So hierarchical systems just is not going to work for that kind of situation. So I
Mm.
go more so for, the quality is, I totally agree with how Jamal stated it. Look at the qualities in you. Do you like you? Do you like the ones that are in you? Then a good mate for you are going to be ones that you can actually find that mirrored into.
Yeah. And I would also mirror
Okay.
that by saying, understand your core values and and
Mm.
and find someone that shares those same core values.
Hmm.
So another question that came up is this one's interesting. Is it okay for a woman to propose to a man?
Absolutely. No.
Whew.
Okay. Who's gonna start that one off?
I think I'll start it off. Listen, again, and I'm sorry. I come from more of a perspective of, we talk about equality, except for stuff like that. So we want gender equality and all these other whatever, but a woman can't ask a man to marry him. I mean, to marry her. Now, generally speaking, it doesn't happen that way. I didn't have it happen that way, you know, when I got married. But I don't think that there's a problem if it happens that way. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so
So does
it
that mean that the
generally.
woman has to go to the parents and ask permission?
I don't believe in all of that either.
Hey, 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 I don't know.
No,
I
no,
don't know how
no.
people do what they do. I don't necessarily believe in that either. So it's kind of like, that's a tough one. I just don't think that it's a problem, because people make it, oh, well, you can't ask him. Girl, if you want to get married, you better ask him. Because if listen, if you look at somebody like, okay, I'll use me as an example. I've been married. I have no desire to be married again. Now, that's not saying I don't want to be in a relationship with somebody for the rest of my life. That's two totally different things. I do, but I don't have to legally. I don't feel like I have to legally be married again. So the chances of me asking somebody to marry me again are very slim. All I want to know is, are we together and are we going to stay together? If you want to get married, now I will, because when I come into a relationship, 9 times out of 10, if I said yes to being your significant other, to being your boyfriend, then I'd probably marry you. I don't do all some of what I see other people testing it and trying to see if you're the one and all this other whatever. I've already had this solidarity within myself that you're worthy of that particular space. So, but because I don't necessarily have to be married again, I'm probably not going to ask. So it's like if you want to be married and you with me, you might want to say something.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Speak now, or we just gonna forever be shacking and sleeping in the bed together forever. I'm sorry, Christians. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. I'm just being honest. I'm
Yeah, I
just
mean, that yeah, I get it. Um, I don't for some things like that. I think it's hard when people say you can't. I don't think there's a thing in regards to you can't. I mean, people could choose to do whatever they want. I don't think there's anything blasphemous about that, or there's anything that's going against any rules or regulations. I don't think it's even anything in any religion that it says that you can't do that. But I
right.
know the way I teach from the biblical perspective is a man who finds a wife finds a good thing, right? So for
Hmm.
me, from that perspective, is that the man will find you, right? That doesn't mean that you can't go out and date. That doesn't mean that you can't ask and all that. But from my perspective, it's more so if he's not asking right now, then he might not be ready. And that's just I'm using that same exact scripture, and other people have used that out of context in different ways. But from my perspective, I think it would be best for a woman to wait and be patient in regards to if she wants to spend the rest of her life with a specific mate, specifically male, that they're talking about that, and that he'll get to the place that if he wants to do it, that he will ask you for it, and you don't have to second guess that.
So this is my personal thing. Um, I'm moving subjects, but because we only got a little bit of time. When it looks so growing up, like I said, I lived with my grandmother from 17 to 30. My grandmother taught me save, 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 save. Um, as it relates to financial literacy,
Oh,
why is
save
that
money.
something that is taboo in the African American home? Um, Not all of them, but primarily, we don't talk about saving. We don't talk about obtaining credit. We don't talk about making sure that
Investing.
your family has life insurance. We don't make life insurance is a big thing that we don't talk about. Um, how? Why is it that we don't talk about it? And how can we position ourselves in a way where it becomes an easy conversation to have?
Well, we don't talk about it because it wasn't at the forefront of our lives on a daily basis. We don't talk about it because it's looked at and frowned upon sometimes because in order for you to be able to obtain that information and put that information at work, you have to do some studying behind it. So, in our neighborhoods and communities growing up, I was having lunch with a buddy of mine the other day, and we were talking about just different folks in our community, just different people in our community, whether talking about back in the day, we all knew somebody that sold drugs. We knew somebody in a gang. We knew somebody that was from the streets. Okay. And I literally sat there and I thought to myself and I said, man, just imagine what it would look like if every one of those gangbangers, every single one of them folks running the streets had a $250,000 life insurance policy that was
Mm.
paid for by their gang. Because guess what? Y'all out here shooting up everybody, getting shot at, dying. Think about it, man. Just honestly think about it. If all of y'all from the projects in the hood, and then one of y'all die, two of y'all die, that's a $500,000 right there that we got in a life insurance policy
Mm.
that we can now give back to your families to help them be able to move on or whatever, or feed somebody or whatever. But I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, think about that. Like, you so smart that you out here running and shooting and killing. But guess what? You had leaving behind a whole family with nothing, and you're dead. So when we start talking about financial literacy and moving on about what we know and what we're trying to understand, if it's not presented in our classrooms and in our homes, guess what? We won't hear about it until much later on in life. I even think about it all the time, and I share different stories about even my own personal journey. The information that I knew about financial literacy is what my mother was taught from when she was in the military, and she projected that onto us about saving and about being able to have certain things in life. And my mom used to always teach us how to, she taught us even budgeting. When we would go to the grocery store, she would teach us about price comparison and about quality of certain items and things like that. So growing up, we talked about needs versus wants. We talked about all of that. I grew up right down the street from Six Flags Magic Mountain. And that was one of the biggest things we would always, when I would never understand why in the world are all the folks that look just like me trying to go buy a brand new outfit and some brand new shoes to go to Six Flags to show off for who? Throw them K-Swiss on that you got, throw them Nikes on that you got, and let's put these shorts in this t-shirt and let's go to Six Flags. What are y'all doing? I never understood that. And I never did it. I always asked my friends and my brother, why are they going to buy a brand new outfit to go to Six Flags? Stupid stuff. Just think about it. Think
We
about
thought
that.
we was gonna meet somebody there.
Right, and you better meet them
Right.
in the same clothes you've been wearing to school for the week. You know. So
Right.
my thing was, I wanted to go to Six Flags with $200 in my pocket. I didn't want to go to Six Flags with $5 in my pocket, trying to figure out how I'm going to eat, and
Right.
knowing that this burger is $10. If I want to get a drink, it's another $10. That's $20. I didn't want to be sharing a burger with my friends. I want to go there with $200 in my pocket, buy what I want, and leave, and still look good, still look fresh, be clean, clothes ironed and all. But that was my whole thing. But when our communities don't teach this information starting at a young age, guess what? Our communities, they lack. They won't know this
Suffer.
information. So, it's not portrayed onto all of us because it's not being taught. But now you see so many people talking about financial literacy. You see churches sharing information about financial literacy, having different classes. Some folks have even implemented it into their new members' orientation and different things like that. You even have jobs. Some jobs will help you with budgeting tools and things of that nature. But guess what? We have to be able to want that information to be able to push it out to ourselves and our communities to grow from there, because if we don't do it, we never will. We love to hear negative things, and we love to hear information that gets us all hype. But when it comes down to say sitting and learning and growing, that takes a whole different person when their mindset. And if their mindset isn't right, then it won't happen. So to me, that's one of the reasons why, or multiple reasons why, our communities and our youngsters and our men are being taught financial literacy. So anybody else want to share their thoughts?
Well, I think we as black people, we'll take anything and make it dope, right? We'll take anything and make it gourmet because we took trash, we took slop and made it into, we took slop of pigs and made it slave food and made it into gourmet meals and named gumbo. That was trash. We seasoned trash and made it into gourmet meals. We'll make any fit. We'll put our money together and be the best dressed, and that turned into hip hop. And you do all this music, turn into hip hop, or turns into a whole different culture in regards to jewelry and cars and whatever. So we'll take what we have and we'll make it dope, but then it's not lasting because we didn't really get the education behind it. What we did was we did whatever in the moment, and now we can eat that gumbo, or we can eat various foods that has all the seasoning in it, and it tastes doper than anything else. But then that was causing hypertension. That was causing hurt or pain, right? Same concept, I think, when it comes to hip hop, when it comes to our dress. We spend more money than most people in regards to all cultures, yet we make less than most all cultures, right? So what is that about, right? So when do we become the brand? When do we start selling the clothes instead of buying the clothes? When do we become the jeweler? When do we become the owners of the supermarket instead of buying stuff from the liquor store, right? So I think that's what it's been this entire time. And I think because we've always made stuff better, all my homies from the hood, dude, we happy. It's not like, it's sad or we're so poor. You go to the Slaughter Swap, you go throw on a chain, you the man now, right? So we make the best out of whatever we get, but it's not long lasting. And I think now we're walking into a generation of people like wealth to leave an inheritance for my children's children. Because my Benz on 22s is not an inheritance, right? And my Gucci jacket is not an inheritance. I look cool in the moment, and I started a whole culture from it, and now everyone wants to be like us, and the whole world wants to be hip hop. The whole world wants to be all that. But what's the lasting? What's lasting of that? And I think we're finally at that place now where we're starting to invest. I mean, I remember just being young, and when I heard people invest, I thought you had to be rich to invest. You got to be rich to invest. I'm not going to invest if I don't have anything. But yet I had something to buy some J's. So I had to just change my mindset and change my perspective. And I think we're now at a place where we're teaching people to do more about that. Of course, celebrate our heritage. Of course, celebrate what we've come through. But I think we're now at a place to kind of expand our mind and start literally no longer. We need to get to a place where we don't need GoFundMe's anymore. GoFund people are dying.
Yes.
You need to GoFundMe. That's not no, no. I want to teach you how to make wealth. I want to teach you all those various things and to have a GoFundMe or do a car wash, right? And God bless those who did it. I'm not knocking it, but I think we're at a place in regards to education within technology. Because the other thing is we weren't privileged for this. Again, we just talked about not even have a dad, and our mom's working really hard. So who is teaching us all this stuff, right? Much less the schools that we went to that didn't have the education to teach us this. So right now we're reteaching ourselves, and because of technology, you go to YouTube University and learn all kind about Bitcoin and investments and NFTs and all this other stuff. Because now we have that technology, but back in the day we didn't. So I think we're now at a place though where we are going to be able to expand that a little bit more.
Yeah, Ray Shipman said they didn't have retirement plans and future perspectives. And Lafayette Young said, because that's the only access to power that we've had.
True.
We didn't have stocks and access to wealth. People couldn't teach what they didn't know. But yes, now is the time we should be sharing at earlier ages. Also, I think more people should share the secrets to success rather than charging $8.99. Well, Lafi, you have three people on here tonight that can help share the secrets, and just inbox us, inbox one of us, and we can help you out with that. Um, One of the questions, the last question that we'll ask tonight is, well, probably one of the last questions. They said, as men, do you separate your spiritual life from your business life?
Mm.
No, I don't.
My spiritual life is my business life. They
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
I don't.
they kind of go together for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
It's like
separate them.
separating them. You're asking me to be two different people. You know,
Yeah,
so you're gonna get all of me. You're gonna get my spiritual side. You're gonna get my natural side. You're gonna get everything. It all my business side. It all cold mingles together. So yeah,
it
I'm not gonna
co-mingles.
take my hat
Yeah,
off, my spiritual hat for something natural. No, you get it all.
I'm not
you
saying,
go get it all
and
out. You're like,
what's interesting is, and people don't realize this, I'm even with my underwear. I'm the same. The premise of how my underwear company got started actually is more so soul and spirit related. People don't see that because you see bodies, you see bulges, and all of the kind of natural stuff, technically. But people don't realize. But there's no separation. I am one person, and I usually am in complete solidarity with that. So there's no separation between spiritual and business for me. Even in how I charge, quote unquote, charge for my services as a counselor. I don't. I actually work on gift economy, but that's something spiritual that I heard to do. Now I ain't rolling in dough, unfortunately, but that's what aligns more with my heart spiritually.
wow.
yeah.
Uh, Kim McKinney said, she said, what obstacles, let me let Jamal back in. She said, what obstacles, no, I'm sorry. Is there a struggle to stay safe and successful at the same time?
Well, my
I think
success. My
I don't. For me, it's not a struggle to say saved and successful. For me, I have morals, and so if it is morally incorrect, I'm not going to do it. And so it's not a struggle for me to stay safe and successful. I think that my name, because I value my name and I value my salvation, it keeps me successful. So it's not a struggle for me. If it's right and I can do it, then I'm gonna do it. If it's wrong, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah. But my salvation is the foundation of my success. So
Yeah.
I'm a child of God before I'm anything. I'm a
Yeah.
child of God before I'm black. I'm a child of God before I'm Belizean. I'm a child of God before all the other accolades that could come behind my name. And because of that, and my foundation in Him that provides everything in regards, even from wisdom to gifting to talent, that's where all my success actually lies.
And I'm still trying to figure out what "stay saved" mean.
These
I mean,
women are like chiming in. They said, if you're unmarried, will you marry a person who's beautiful, had drive and ambition, but didn't want Christ if they could help you succeed?
good
Didn't
question.
want Christ.
Yep. If they were beautiful, they had drive and ambition, but they didn't want Christ, but they could help you succeed. Would you still marry that person?
Well, for me, it goes back to the concept that I shared earlier that you have to share the same values for me, right? So we have to share the same values in regards to me being with anyone. And the blessing between my wife and I is that I was actually backsliding while she came to know God. She came to know Christ. So we were able to grow together and our values were able to come together. So absolutely not. I personally don't think that's a great way for success from my perspective.
Yeah.
For me, if you can help me succeed, but you have all of those things, who says you helping me succeed the right way? So it's a no for it would be a no for me.
For me,
It's
as
a
long as she
huge no.
beautiful. No, I'm just playing.
You said what?
Lee. If I didn't know you, Lee, if I didn't know you personally, bro, I'd be
long
like,
as listen,
what?
long as she beautiful. Like
this
no,
I'm
no,
telling y'all.
but honestly, I wouldn't marry anybody because they can make me successful anyway.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I, you know, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but if it's somebody that does not want, and now I'm probably the most saved unsaved one on here. Um, if it's somebody that does not particularly want the religious Christ, the religious Jesus, I don't necessarily think that that would stop me from actually marrying it because what I'm going to watch is because I've found that there's some people who actually follow Christ who will not say his name or follow Jesus the Christ who have exemplified some of the same exact character. They just don't they can't get with the religious piece of it. So for me, it's not a deal breaker that they don't ascribe to what is traditionally known as the Christian way, um, because I see something beyond the religion. I'm able to look into your eyes and really truly see the divine. And I've recognized that some people are off put by the word Christian, but their life exemplifies Christ. So I kind of would go beyond. That's a little deeper answer, but I still believe it goes with like with Dr. J, what he says, finding somebody that actually has the same core values in that sense. But I don't believe you have to agree what I believe religiously in order to mean that we have exactly the same core value.
Cool. Dr. J, I know we didn't get a chance for you to touch back on the sex trafficking piece, but can you touch on that real quick?
Yeah, just quickly, human trafficking is happening everywhere, right? Human trafficking has been identified in every country in the world. Human trafficking has
Mm,
been identified in every state in the United States. Anywhere
mm,
you look for human trafficking, you will actually find it. Some of the myths about human trafficking is the fact that it's only girls, or the traffickers are only guys, and that's a huge myth. We serve boys in both in the United States and in Thailand. We actually serve more boys in Thailand than we do girls. Lots of people are
wow.
going to Thailand to purchase sex from little boys, and that's happening more there than the United States. 90% of the youth that we serve here are actually our girls, but we still do serve both male and female, and we serve transgender and we serve non-binary. So this is a concept that can actually attack anybody. Some people ask why am I in this fight because to me the slavery in America ended. And I think that if you were a slave getting beaten and getting tortured and you saw your mom getting raped, you would have never thought it was going to end. And I think if you were in Nazi Germany and you were a Jew and your family were walking into these buildings and never coming out and dying by the millions, you would have never thought it was going to end. But those two atrocities ended. So why not human trafficking? And human trafficking is our generation's atrocity currently. It's modern day slavery. A lot of us look at the concept of slavery and we'll be like, oh, we would fight. Oh, heck no, I would do this now. We'll be an abolitionist now. Because human trafficking is the buying and selling of people, right? And for those for those who are from California, there's a huge number in California of human trafficking, but it's also because we're actually searching for it in LA and specifically California. So wherever you look, you will find it. People ask who's at risk. Anyone under the age of 18 is at risk of being trafficked. Back in the day, when I grew up in the 80s, my mom would say, don't go to that white van because there'll be some guy trying to offer you candy and he's going to try and take advantage of you. Now that white van is called Instagram, Facebook, Kik, Snapchat. And the pimps, if I ask you what does a pimp look like, half this room would say, oh, they wear green and gold and they drive a Cadillac and he has a hat and he has a cane. Nah, an exploiter could look like actually anyone on this panel right now. They can have a nice smile. They can be handsome. They can be tall. They can be strong. And they can. And people are like, oh, he has a nice smile. He can't be a criminal. No, yeah, he can't. And like that concept of Instagram. And I'll end with this story just so you kind of know the concept. Traffickers are yes, they kidnap. Yes, they brutally beat. We call that a guerrilla pimp. Yeah, they do all those various things that you see in the movies, but that's a misconception. Sometimes it's as simple as what a sugar daddy now became a trafficker. Let me buy this for you. Let me help you out with this. Do this for me, and then I'll give you money type of thing. It's youth who are they're on Instagram showing their whole life. Right. So I'll give you a quick story. There's a little girl, 15 years old. She plays softball. She wants to go to UCLA. She wants to play for the Dodgers. She likes the Dodgers. She wants to play for UCLA. She goes to the same burger spot and does a selfie of herself all the time wearing the same gear. This person literally stalks her on the internet. She doesn't know that because her settings are on public. So he finally goes into that same burger joint on that same Tuesday and Thursday she always goes into. He walks in with what? A Dodger hat. He tells her how beautiful she is. He offers her tickets to a Dodger game because he's already studied her. She thinks it's an ordained meeting. Wow, he told me I'm beautiful. He's handsome. He has a nice car. He's well dressed. He don't look like a criminal. So and her daddy wasn't in her life, and sometimes she's has already experienced some type of molest or sexual abuse. So let me get to know more. Then he says that he graduated from UCLA. Then he talks about all the various things that she thinks is an ordained meeting, but all he did was study her profile and see all the various places that she went to. He then quote unquote starts a relationship with her, and then keeps on buying her things. Sometimes actually treating her beautifully. Sometimes with bags and taking her places until it's not that anymore. Until he then says she has to strip, and then she has to go on camera, and then she actually has to go walk the blade. And then after that happens, this is the scariest part. He tells her, "You don't even have to do this anymore if you can get me 3 of your friends." Well, I already told you she's smart. She's a smart, beautiful little young girl who plays softball. So she brings 2 of her baseball, softball players with her to the next party. And who's at the next party? A bunch of dirtbags like him, right? And sometimes they, again, don't look like dirtbags. Kind, nice, smart, great smile. And that's how it's happening specifically in the United States nowadays. So we have to be very careful in regards to that peer recruitment. How do we stop this? We stop it by just sharing something, just awareness. Prevention is the key. Lots of people are focused on restoration, and we do restoration. I actually lead a home and that restores youth who have been trafficked. But the goal is prevention, telling our kids what to look out for. There are no more serial killers who are kidnapping kids. We used to see that back in the 80s on milk cartons. That's not happening. If a kid is gone, someone has brought them into human trafficking. And I'll end with the business model. Why? Because it makes money. It makes stupid money, $150 billion organization. And the fact of me is so human trafficking is second to drugs. Only drugs. So it's drugs, then human trafficking, then guns. So why do people start selling humans? Because if you sold drugs or guns, you sell that one time. You chop it up, whatever, you sell that one time. A human, you take them. So you're already, your return on investments already, you're getting a return on investment because you already stole something, right? The biggest return on investment is what? Stealing, taking, because there's no investment. And then you use them over and over again till they die. And these traffickers are making tons of money because other men and women are buying it because there's a demand. So the other part of that is figuring out, why is there a demand? Why is the family so broken? Why are there pastors? Why are there other people of faith actually buying sex from children? So we have to really talk about that and really have to get to the root of some of these different concepts. But
Wow.
that's the prevention piece right now. And that's what we have to do.
Wow.
And just so you know, in LA, 90% of the youth who've been trafficked is African American females. In LA, 70% of the traffickers are African American males. So all throughout the nation, it's different races and different in regards to different cities, but specifically Florida, Houston, Georgia, and California. This is a minority issue. So I think more churches really need minority churches really need to talk about that. And that's it in a nutshell. I don't want to go on too long.
Wow.
Oh no, you're good, man. But that's the purpose for tonight. I know we talked about a lot of men issues, but I specifically chose these three men guys because these are things that we don't talk about in the church. We don't. These things are taboo in the church. We don't talk about building healthy relationships. We don't talk about sex trafficking. We don't talk about sex in church, and we don't talk about finances unless it's giving tithes and offering. But we don't talk about financial literacy as much as we should. So that was the purpose for tonight's conversation. You guys can still inbox us questions, comments, concerns. Um, I want each one of you just to tell people where they can find you, what you specialize in, and then give a piece of advice to the men that are watching.
My
You
Instagram handle is Dr. Jason Plunkett on Instagram. So if you ever want to find me, DM me there. I actually like to put inspirational things on there as well. So follow my stories. Starting a podcast soon. And for those who want to know more about human trafficking, go to gozoe.org, GOZOE.org. You'll get constant, consistent statistics there. We make sure all our statistics are up to date. So any information you want to have find about human trafficking. And my biggest takeaway, or what I want to give to men, is understand yourself, right? Self-awareness is huge. To get to the place of self-awareness, we call it emotional intelligence. Get to a place of self-awareness so you know who you are and whose you are. And then with that concept, then you learn how to self-manage. And once that self-awareness kicks in and you understand who you are, you know how to manage yourself. Once you now know how to manage yourself, you go into social arenas and social situations, and then you're socially aware because now you know how to manage yourself because you're self-aware. And at the end of that, what it really goes back down to is with now your relationship aware, right? So we call it social awareness. So the concept of self-awareness that leads to self-management, that then leads to social awareness, will then lead you to better relationship management.
and you
Cool.
can find me on Instagram at Jamal underscore more. I am a financial lit expert. I even have a private group on Facebook called Impact Credit where we share a ton of credit tips. We help people understand financial literacy. So if you are interested in being a part of that group, it's a very positive group where we help people to boost their credit scores. And we're helping people, we have an initiative going on right now where we're helping people become homeowners, minorities become homeowners, single parents. And I'm not just talking about the single mom, I'm talking about the single dad as well. We're helping so many families and so many people that look just like you and me. So let's go ahead and let's connect. Once again, Instagram, Jamal underscore more. That is JAMAAL underscore more, MOORE. And if I could leave you, gentlemen, with anything on tonight, it would be open your mind, allow yourself to think big, and allow yourself to do something that you've never done in 2022 that's going to help you and your family move forward in understanding financial literacy. So change your mindset, and you'll see everything around you shift.
Cool. And then my website is www.leanzerstockley.com. I'm a relationality specialist with Society 61, a collaborative alliance for relational wellness. We also offer grief recovery special programs for people that are suffering from broken hearts that needs to have them restored. I can be on Instagram is at Soul Society 61. You can follow me there for that. As far as what I would say to the gentlemen or to men that are out there, learn to be love for people, not just have it, but actually learn to be the love that you say you have for other people.
Mm.
Cool. You guys know you can follow me on Instagram. I am PDR and life coach, books, schedule your life coaching sessions, financial literacy. Look us up, Impact Credit. My advice to the men will simply be the version of you that you will want other men to model after for
Hmm.
years to come. Um, Next week, we're going to be dealing with a panel with women, and we're going to do the same thing with women where we're going to have the guys send questions in for the women. Until next week, this is Pastor P, your creative solutionist. Let's be real, let's be honest, and let's stay clear. Thank all of you guys for joining me on tonight. I owe all y'all one. It's been a good pleasure having this convo. Love y'all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Thank y'all. That was
Cool.
fun.
That was fun.
Did you end the broadcast?